for our final review packet, and we'll let you guys get to work on this whole thing and see how you guys do. All right. So anyways, here we go. Again, we're dealing with right triangles. And a common thing that I see every single time that I like to use every time is I know when I have two of them that share a common side or smushed together, that those two are going to be congruent to each other because of the reflexive property. That's where this comes into play, where you have HL as the rule that you can do this, because the hypotenuse is what H stands for, and L is what a leg. Now a leg, meaning there are two legs on a right triangle. They're the legs that are not, the sides, or they're not the hypotenuse side. Okay, so with that being said, we need to find the measurement of TYW, which is over here. So this is a trick question here. You guys got to be careful. TYW is right here, but they're giving you information for everything here to be able to figure this out. Okay. And we know that this bisects it. So what we're going to do is we're going to set these two equal to each other. We're going to solve for x. We're going to solve for one of these angles. And then we know that this other angle over here is 90 degrees. So I'm going to write that here right now. And then we can take this angle and this angle, add them up and subtract it. And we get our angle for our third side, or third angle. So let's go ahead and do this. 6x minus 26 equals 2x plus 6. Subtracting 2x from both sides gives us 4x minus 26 equals 6. Add 26 to both sides. Boy, that gives me 4x equals 32. X equals 8. So that's what our x equals. So I'm going to plug 8 in for here. I'm going to go 6 times 8 minus 26. So 6 times 8 is 48. Minus 26, which is going to give us an answer of, I believe it's like 22, isn't it? Let's double check with our calculator here. So 48 minus 26 equals 22. But again, this is the measurement of this angle here. We do not want that one. That's the thing. We want this one over here. So what we got to do, we got to take 90, add it to 22, and then we want to subtract that from 180 degrees. So let's go 22 plus 90 gives us 112. So 180 minus 112. We subtract that from 180 and we go minus 112, which gives us an answer of 68. So out of all these, which one equals 68? Notice they have 22 in here. They're throwing you off. They're going to trick you. And the answer in this case will be D. All right, question number 48. Given the triangle below with information is needed, ABC is congruent to the DEF using the leg angle congruence theorem, again, because of the 90-degree rule. We know that. And so what other thing do we need? So we have the 90-degree rule. We have one of the angles, okay? And it's the leg angle theorem. So we need to have, and the one that does not count and you cannot use is the hypotenuse side. So it has to be one of the legs. So it's either got to be BA is congruent to ED, or AC is congruent to FD. So which one of those do we have? And let's see here. Let's go AB to DE. There it is right there. So there's our answer right there that we have. So our answer would be AB and DE. Okay. All right. Question 49. Cruising right along here. Now this one's a little bit on the tougher side of things. It says, which conclusion can be drawn from the given facts in the diagram? Okay, so we have three different triangles here. We have this one, and this one. And what do we notice about all three of these triangles? This one has congruent sides, which means that these two angles are congruent. So this is an isosceles triangle. Notice that these two angles are equal to each other in this triangle. Therefore, this side and this side are congruent to each other, even though they do not match, but we could say that they are congruent. Okay, that's the key thing. That's the hint. And again, these two sides are congruent, therefore these angles are going to be congruent. But the key thing is right here, okay? Because these two angles are congruent, that means that these two angles are congruent. That means that these two sides and these two sides are also going to be congruent based on the transitive property. So which one shows that one of those is going to be equal to the other one? We did nothing with bisecting, so we're going to cross that one out. We did nothing with angles, so we're going to cross that one out. So it's either going to be C or it's going to be D. So we have PT, which is this side right here, and RS, which is this side over here. And what did we just say? Because this one is equal to this one, and this one is equal to this one, and this one is equal to that one, that means the first and the last are equal, because it says TS, which is down here, and PQ, which is over here, doesn't match. So guess what our answer is going to be? It's going to be C. All right, moving right along here. Here we go. We have a couple more little proofs to do, and we're out of here. Okay, so in this proof that we have here, my favorite scenario again, we get two things that we get to get out of this whole thing. Okay, first of all, it says this is an isosceles triangle. Therefore, those two sides are equal to each other. Then the other part, it says that GP bisects this angle here. So that means that this angle is congruent to that angle. So far we have a side and an angle. So we have scenarios in here where we're dealing with, and it doesn't say that it's a right angle or any of that stuff, so we have situations where we don't have to worry about right triangles. But our favorite thing in the whole wide world is when we have two triangles that squish together and they share a side, we know that they are congruent to each other because of the reflexive property. Okay, now, that's given. Base angles of an isosceles triangle are congruent. Okay, so we know that this is an isosceles triangle. We can also say that these two angles are congruent because of the isosceles rule. So we can sit there and say, going down here, angle what does it say? EGP and FGP are going to be congruent based on the isosceles triangle. Trying to look here at my notes, see what we have to say. And that doesn't really match us because that has to do with the bisecting part of it, not necessarily have a base angle of isosceles triangle. So let's look at the next one. EPG, EPG, and FPG. That has nothing to do with anything as far as what we bisected. We didn't cut this in half. So it says angle E is congruent to angle. We got that marked. We haven't got it marked. So guess what? Answer number 50 is angle E is congruent to angle F. Now the last thing we need to choose is based on the information we just have and we got here in our proof that we're either going to use the HL congruence, but we can't because there's no right angles in there. So we're going to cross that off. So it has to be side angle, angle side angle, or angle angle side. So let's go back up here and look and see what we have here. Looks like we have how many angles marked? 2 angles are marked. Okay. And we have 2 sides that are marked. So there's not one really that's more distinct than the other one, but if we go our clockwise or our counterclockwise rotation, we could probably figure it out. And I'm going to start down here in this corner here, and I'm going to start with this angle. So I'm going to go angle, side, angle. Okay, or I could do side, angle, side. So we have angle, side, angle works. We have side, angle, side. So side, angle, side. And I don't know if there's anything else that we have in there that does a rotation that way. So it's either going to be one of those two. So we got to look down here and find out which one is going to work for us that we have in our options. Side, side, angle. Nope, we didn't choose that one. Side, angle, side. Yes, we did. So guess what? Is that an answer? Side, angle, side. So side, angle, side. Did it? But here, yeah, we have the reflexive property in there. So I'm going to double check that to make sure that we answered that correctly. So it's 51. And they even said angle, angle side with this whole thing too. we could do that too. But they said angle side, but I would choose either one of those because it said angle side because you have angle side because we talked about it being isosceles. We could say it those sides, but I think it's probably more closer to this one than this one because they didn't say anything about, well, they said it's an isosceles triangle. So I would sit there and say either one would be a correct answer on this one, but the answer key says that angle side is the one that we deal because they're dealing with the reflexive property. Okay? All right, there we go. All right, down to our last two questions. All right, question number 52 and 53. Identify the following in the best name for the figure of the form here. So we have to plot these points on here. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to get a piece of graph paper here, and I'm going to plot them. So we're going to go -1, -4. That's A. We're going to go 1, -1. That's B. And we're going to go 2, -2. And that's C. I'm going to draw my little picture here. And we're going to look at this. So is it scalene, isosceles, equilateral, or obtuse? So that means scalene means none of the sides are equal. Isosceles means two sides are equal. Equilateral means that all three sides are equal. And obtuse means it has one obtuse angle in it. Okay, so which ones do we say that we probably could eliminate? I would say equilateral is gone and obtuse is gone. So how do we know if it's isosceles or scalene? This is one way to tell. Just like we've been doing distance formula in the past. We do our dimensions here. 1, 2, 3, and 2 on this one. And then we're going to do the same thing on this side, where we got 2 and 1, 2, 3. So they're exactly the same. So that means that this side is going to be congruent to this side. So which one of those has two of them that have the same side? B does, but scalene, because scalene does not have any sides that are equal to each other. All right, last but not least, number 53 from chapter 4. It says that we have an isosceles triangle. So that means this side and this side are congruent, and this angle are congruent. That means if we were to sit there and do this where it says M is at 0, 0, pretty much on the axis, that means this side is going to be equal to this side. So it says L is to the left of the x-axis, which is at this dimension here. What we want to know is what the dimension of N is going to be, because that's what it's asking for. So since this is a -4a, this has to be, since this has to be congruent on both sides, this probably has to be what? +4a. And since it's on the origin or on the x-axis, it'd probably end up with a 0 there too. So which one is the opposite of L? The opposite of L would be C. And there we go. So there's your answers. Hope you guys get some stuff out of this and you understand, and hopefully you can refer back to this as much as possible to help yourself out in doing all this stuff. So, all right, you guys have a good day, and we will talk to you later.